Who were the Vikings really? Fierce raiders or misunderstood explorers? Let me show you. In 800 years, flashes of lightning-quick Viking ships cutting through the waves, fierce battles between Viking warriors and their foes, and the discovery of mysterious artifacts that reveal their secrets. The Vikings had a warrior code. They lived by a strict code of honor, loyalty, and bravery. This is the story of a legendary Viking warrior. But wait, there's more to it than meets the eye. Let's dig deeper. The Viking Age was a period of time from the 8th to the 11th century when Scandinavian people known as Vikings went on raids, explorations and trading missions across Europe and beyond. But not everyone knows that the Vikings also had a warrior code. It's true. The Vikings believed in a code of honor, loyalty, and bravery, and they lived by it both on and off the battlefield. But what kind of weapons did these warriors use? Let's take a closer look at some of their most fearsome weapons. Swords were an important weapon for Viking warriors. They used them for both offense and defense, and they were often passed down as family heirlooms. Axes were another popular choice. They were effective in close-quarters combat and could be used to great effect in battle. Shields were also important, providing much-needed protection on the battlefield. And don't forget about chainmail, a type of armor made up of small metal rings that could be worn by warriors for added protection. These weapons and tools weren't just used in battle, they were also used for everyday tasks. A Viking warrior's life was full of hard work, and they needed to be able to rely on their tools to get the job done no matter what. Now let's talk about training. What kind of training did these warriors go through to become the fierce fighters we know them as today? Well, it started at a young age. Boys would often train with wooden swords and shields while girls would learn how to fight with their male counterparts. As they grew older, they would then move on to real weapons and learn how to use them effectively. This training wasn't just for the purpose of battle. It was also a way of life for Vikings. They believed that everyone should be able to defend themselves and their honor. Now let's talk about raids. Viking raids were lightning-fast affairs. They would hit their targets quickly and then retreat before any sort of organized defense could be mounted. This required a lot of skill and precision, but it was also risky. If the Vikings were not careful, they could easily be ambushed or outmaneuvered. But they were up for the challenge. But what about women warriors? Did they exist, or was it all just a myth? Well, there is evidence to suggest that female Viking warriors known as shield maidens were real. Some historians believe that shield maidens were an important part of Viking society and that they fought alongside men in battle. This goes against the traditional image of the helpless damsel in distress that was popular in medieval times. Instead, it shows that Viking women were strong, capable individuals who were not afraid to fight for what they believed in. But what about the famous horned helmet? Was it really used by Viking warriors? Well, there is no evidence to suggest that they wore horned helmets. This is likely a misconception that arose during the Romantic era when people began to view Vikings as mysterious and exotic. Other common myths include the idea that Vikings were incredibly brutal and savage. But this is not backed up by historical evidence either. In fact, Vikings had a strong sense of honor and they valued things like courage and loyalty. Finally, the idea that Vikings were uncivilized barbarians is also a myth. They had a complex legal system and a rich culture that should not be overlooked. So what was the legacy of the Viking warrior? Well, their fighting spirit had a profound impact on the history of Europe. They were fierce and unrelenting, but also honorable and courageous. Their fighting style and tactics were ahead of their time, and they left behind a legacy of strength and determination that lives on in modern culture. From the weapons they used to the code they lived by, Viking warriors were truly a force to be reckoned with. So next time you hear the word Viking, think of the bravery, honor, and skill of these legendary fighters. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing historical tales. Until next time.